The ballroom looked like it had been lifted straight out of a bridal magazine. Gold-rimmed crystal glasses sparkled under a chandelier the size of a small car. The air smelled like peonies, champagne, and polished perfection. Every detail of Sophia's wedding screamed elegance: curated flower walls, a 10-piece string quartet, and guests dressed in gowns that cost more than Rachel's monthly rent. Everyone was in awe. Everyone except Rachel. Standing near the back, she clutched a flute of champagne. She hadn't sipped the bubbles, rising faster than her breath. On the outside, she smiled politely, playing her role like she always had. But inside, she felt like a cardboard cutout at someone else's celebration. Sophia, in her designer gown, glided across the room like royalty. Their parents beamed with pride, as if the wedding was their greatest achievement. No one looked Rachel's way. No one asked how she was doing. And yet, just months ago, she had survived a professional smear campaign, a broken engagement, and being forced out of her home. She stood in the very family that praised resilience, but only when it came from Sophia. Rachel's heart ached, not out of jealousy, but something worse: invisibility. And that night, surrounded by fairy lights and fine china, she realized something bone deep. She had been a guest in her own family for far too long. The room was glowing golden chandeliers above soft laughter bouncing between tables and champagne glasses raised in anticipation. Rachel was already preparing herself for the usual. Her mother, Eleanor, always knew how to deliver a polished toast. She'd start with a graceful smile, a memory from childhood, a flattering joke, and end by showering Sophia with praise. But this time, something was off. Eleanor stood slowly, holding her glass with both hands, her face unusually solemn. When she cleared her throat, the room hushed. "To the daughter I've always been proud of," she began. Sophia beamed. Rachel exhaled quietly. Here we go again. But Eleanor didn't turn toward Sophia. She turned toward Rachel. "And to the daughter I should have seen more clearly," she added, voice trembling. "I owe this moment to her." There was a shift in the air. Forks paused mid-bite, champagne glasses frozen inches from lips. Then Eleanor's voice broke. "There's something I need to confess. Something this family, and this man she just married, deserve to know." Rachel's breath caught in her throat. "I found the emails, the ones Sophia sent to sabotage her sister. She lied to the hospital board. She stole her fiancé. She destroyed her apartment. And she did it all with a smile." The ballroom fell silent. No music, no applause. Just the sound of 300 heartbeats stopped. Rachel stood frozen, her champagne flute slipping from her fingers and crashing onto the marble floor. And across the room, Sophia sat motionless, face pale, jaw clenched, trying to keep her crown from crumbling in front of everyone. The sound of shattering glass sliced through the ballroom like lightning through silk. Rachel didn't mean to drop it. Her hand had simply let go. A split second after Eleanor's words landed, the stem of the champagne flute slipped through her fingers and crashed to the marble floor, bursting into 1,000 shards. Every head turned toward her. It wasn't loud music or an angry shout that shifted the room. It was that sound, the sound of disbelief made physical. Rachel stood motionless. Her chest rose and fell in slow, uneven rhythm. Her eyes locked with Sophia's across the table. And what she saw wasn't confusion. It was recognition. Sophia's face was drained of all color. Her perfectly applied lipstick now looked like a smear of red against chalk-white skin. But what gave her away wasn't the silence. It was her stillness. Too still, like someone calculating an escape plan in real time. And suddenly, Rachel wasn't the only one who noticed. James turned, slowly, staring at his new bride. The crowd followed, heads swiveling like dominoes. "What is she talking about, Sophia?" he asked. His voice was calm, but his grip on the table tightened. Sophia opened her mouth. Nothing came out. She looked toward her mother for help, But Eleanor didn't flinch. She stared straight ahead, as if daring Sophia to deny it. The illusion, the perfect sister, the flawless bride, the golden daughter was starting to crack, and every eye in the room was watching it happen in real time. Long before the shattered champagne glass, long before the wedding toast that cracked everything wide open, Rachel had already known what it meant to be second. She had lived it her entire life. As the older sister, she was the one who got hand-me-downs. Sophia got sparkle shoes from the boutique. Rachel got last year's flats with worn-out soles. When Sophia turned 10, she got a birthday party at the country club, white linen cupcakes shaped like tiaras, even a magician flown in from New York. When Rachel turned 10, she got a store-bought cake, eaten around the kitchen table while her mom answered work emails. People always said things like, "Sophia just lights up a room," or "she's got that star quality." And Rachel? She was told, "You're the responsible one, the steady one, the mature one," which in family code meant, you don't need attention, so you won't get it. She remembered one moment clearly, Christmas Eve, age 14. Sophia got a violin, private lessons, and a heartfelt speech from their dad about her potential. Rachel got a pair of socks, wool socks, and she smiled, because that's what the strong one does. It didn't happen all at once. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't always arrive in a loud crash. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it smiles while holding a knife. At first, Rachel thought it was just bad luck. The promotion she'd been promised at the hospital suddenly revoked. They told her some concerns had been raised about her conduct. Rachel was blindsided. She had a spotless record. Then, someone on the board slipped just once and mentioned an anonymous tip. Still, she didn't suspect Sophia. Not even when Nathan, her fiancé, broke off their engagement just 3 weeks later. "I don't know what's wrong," he had said, "but something feels off." He couldn't explain it. Rachel blamed herself. Maybe she worked too much. Maybe she wasn't emotionally available. She never once thought someone had planted that doubt in him. And then came the flood. Literally, a pipe burst in her apartment, destroying years of belongings, family photos, medical journals, personal letters. The plumber said it looked tampered with, deliberate. Still, Rachel tried to see the good. Tried to forgive the timing. Tried to believe in accidents. Until she overheard Sophia on the phone saying, "No, she doesn't suspect anything, just stick to the plan." That's when it hit her. It wasn't bad luck. It was 1,000 tiny cuts, and every single one had Sophia's fingerprints. It happened over dinner, a simple Tuesday evening at Grandma Martha's cozy apartment. The table was set with mismatched china and meatloaf that tasted like every childhood memory. Rachel was trying to keep it together, masking exhaustion with a practiced smile. But Martha, as always, saw through everything. "You're tired," she said, sliding a cup of chamomile tea toward her. "Long day?" Rachel nodded. "Too many of them." They ate in silence for a while. Then Martha set down her fork. Her voice dropped, not loud, but sharp enough to cut through the quiet. "Has Sophia always been kind to you?" Rachel blinked. "Of course. I mean, we fight like sisters do, but she's always been there." Martha didn't smile. She didn't nod. She just looked over her glasses and said something that would haunt Rachel for months. "Sophia doesn't look at you like a sister. She looks at you like prey." Rachel froze. "What? What does that mean?" Martha leaned back, her eyes heavy with years of knowing. "I've watched her, the way she studies you, like someone watching for weakness. Like she's waiting for the moment you stumble so she can step over you." Rachel tried to laugh it off. She couldn't. Something about Martha's voice, the way it didn't tremble, made it feel less like opinion and more like prophecy. She wasn't trying to eavesdrop. Rachel had gone looking for a quiet corner to breathe, just a moment away from the clinking glasses, the forced smiles, the over-decorated perfection of Sophia's engagement party. She stepped into the library at the Hamilton estate, a mahogany-walled room filled with dustless books and curated old money. And that's when she heard it, Sophia's voice. Low, fast, tense. Rachel froze. She couldn't see her sister, but the tone was unmistakable. No, she doesn't suspect anything. Pause. Shuffle of papers. Just stick to the plan. It's almost done. Rachel's heart skipped. What plan? Who was she? Her she stepped back, her heel clicking lightly on the polished wood floor. The voice stopped. A few seconds later, Sophia emerged from behind the corner bookshelf, smile perfectly in place, phone still in hand. "Oh, hey, just talking to the florist," she said breezily. "They're being impossible about the orchids, imported ones, so dramatic." Rachel smiled back robotically, but her thoughts spiraled. Florist, maybe. But why did Sophia sound like she was managing a heist? And since when did flowers involve a plan? It happened again. This time, Rachel wasn't even trying to hide. She was in the upstairs hallway of her parents' house, helping Sophia with last-minute dress fittings for the wedding. She needed a break. The tension, the endless chatter, the subtle digs masked as compliments, it was all too much. She stepped toward the guest bathroom to wash her hands. The door was mostly closed, but not locked, and from inside she heard her sister's voice again. "She'll be there, but she won't be a problem." Rachel froze. Then came the real blow. Mom's on board. Yes, even that part. Silence. Rachel's stomach dropped. Her mother? On board with what part? She stood there, hand hovering over the doorknob, unsure whether to knock or back away. Something in her wanted to burst in, to demand answers, but she didn't. Sophia emerged moments later, all calm and wedding smile again. "Just arguing with the coordinator," she said with a sigh. "She keeps asking me the same questions. It's driving me nuts." Rachel nodded numbly, but inside, the question burned like fire. What kind of plan needs Mom's approval? And worse, what kind of mother gives it? Something changed in her that day. Not all at once, not with a scream or a slam, but quietly, with a single steady decision. No more blind trust. No more silence. Rachel wasn't going to wait for the next betrayal to fall in her lap. She would hunt it first. Because yes, she was a neurologist, but she was also trained to observe patterns, decode symptoms, detect what others missed. And now all her instincts, clinical and personal, were telling her something was very, very wrong. She started small. She checked her apartment's repair records, called the plumber who fixed the busted pipes. He confirmed the tampering was intentional. Someone had loosened the main valve. Then she went through her email inbox, searching for any messages from the hospital board. One stood out. It was forwarded to her anonymously weeks ago. She had dismissed it at the time, but now, reading it again, her blood ran cold. The accusations in the email matched exactly what Sophia had whispered in private. Too exact. Then came the old iCloud account Rachel barely remembered linking to her tablet. Sophia had used it once to airdrop a photo during a family trip, and she forgot to log out. What Rachel found next wasn't conclusive, but it was enough. Enough to know this wasn't coincidence. It was sabotage, planned, personal, precise. Rachel was done playing the role of the good sister. She wasn't just the victim anymore. She was the investigator. Every good story needs an unlikely ally. For Rachel, it was Margaret Sophia's sister-in-law. Quiet, observant, and criminally underappreciated in the family, Margaret had a talent for spotting lies, mostly because she had lived among them. Over lunch one day, Rachel opened up cautiously. She didn't say everything, just enough. Margaret didn't ask for proof. She simply nodded and whispered, "Then let's go find it." 2 nights later, Margaret showed up with a flash drive and a glass of wine. They sat on Rachel's couch, both barefoot, both nervous. "Your sister isn't as careful as she thinks," Margaret muttered, typing rapidly. She had once helped Sophia set up a temporary Gmail to communicate with a wedding planner, but the email had never been deleted, just renamed, just repurposed. Within minutes, they were inside, and what they found was a vault of digital poison. Dozens of emails to Rachel's hospital, to anonymous complaint portals, even to Nathan, Rachel's ex-fiancé, all from Sophia. All carefully written to sound like different people, different tones, different concerns, but the same goal, to ruin Rachel. Rachel sat motionless, not crying, not even breathing. Then she spoke. "Can we download all of it?" Margaret didn't blink. Already done. It wasn't just one betrayal. It was 1,000 tiny daggers, each delivered with a smile. The further Rachel and Margaret dug, the more grotesque the truth became. There were emails Sophia sent to Rachel's hospital board accusing her of prescribing medication irresponsibly, all signed with fake names, all full of carefully worded concern. But it didn't stop there. Margaret discovered that Sophia had linked herself to one of Rachel's old joint bank accounts from college, one Rachel had completely forgotten about. Over $14,000 had been quietly siphoned in under a year, used for wedding upgrades, spa days, designer heels. Stolen not just from Rachel's pocket, but from her sense of trust. Then came the photo files, images of broken pipes, emergency plumbing, insurance claims. Rachel had always assumed that was bad luck, a random housing disaster, until she found the work order. Under cause of incident, the contractor had written in plain text, "Main line was punctured with sharp object, likely intentional." And then came the voicemail. It was short, but final. Nathan's voice, her ex-fiancé. Shaky, but clear. "Rachel, I can't do this. I heard things. About your temper, your medical license. I'm sorry. I need to think about my future." He hung up. Rachel stared at the wall. One tear slid down. Not because she missed him, but because she finally understood. She had been erased, piece by piece, life by life. It took Rachel 3 days to dial his number and 5 tries to actually hit call. Nathan picked up on the second ring. There was silence. Then his voice. Older, less confident, maybe even ashamed. Rachel. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She simply asked, "Why did you leave?" A pause. Then slowly, "Because Sophia told me you were dangerous." His words cracked. "She said you lost a patient, that you had outbursts. She showed me messages. Fake ones, I realize now." Rachel closed her eyes. "And you believed her?" Nathan's voice broke into a whisper. "I wanted to believe you. I did. But you were always so busy, so distracted. And Sophia, she was there. She listened. She told me she knew what it was like to be ignored." There it was. Not just betrayal, but emotional theft. Rachel was quiet for a long time. Then, almost mechanically, "Did you sleep with her?" A beat of silence. And then, "Yes, once. I was drunk. She wasn't." The line went quiet. Rachel didn't scream. She just said, "Thank you for telling me. Now I can finally delete you too." And she hung up. It was Christmas Eve. The house glowed with warm lights, laughter, clinking wine glasses. But Rachel didn't feel warmth. She felt a fracture, like something underneath the floorboards had always been broken, and tonight it would finally crack open. Her father asked to speak with her privately. They walked out to the back porch, their breath fogging in the cold night air. He held a small glass of scotch. His hand trembled. "There's something you need to know." Rachel didn't answer. She just waited. He looked down, then back up. His eyes were softer than she remembered. "Sophia isn't mine." Silence. What? He sighed. Your mother had an affair, years ago, before Sophia was born. I found out later after the birth, but I promised to raise her as my own, for the family, for your mother. Rachel's knees nearly buckled. You knew she wasn't your daughter, but you never treated her differently? He nodded. I thought loving her equally would fix everything. But instead, it built a lie I couldn't control. Rachel blinked away tears. All this time, she thought the favoritism was her fault, that maybe she wasn't lovable, maybe she was too quiet, too serious. But now, the favoritism had nothing to do with her. It had always been about guilt, about covering up a betrayal that came long before Rachel ever had a chance. The air inside the living room was heavy. Tension crackled under the surface like a wire about to snap. Rachel stood near the fireplace, her father behind her. Across the room, her mother Eleanor clutched a wine glass that trembled in her hand. Then the voice that broke the silence wasn't Rachel's. It was Grandma Martha, soft, clear. This isn't the first time this family watched one sister destroy another. Everyone froze. Eleanor, she turned to Rachel's mother, do you remember your own sister? Eleanor's face went pale. Martha continued. You did to Clara what Sophia just did to Rachel. You stole her fiancé. You spread lies about her at church. And when she left town, you never looked back. The silence grew louder. Rachel's mouth parted. Clara? I have an aunt named Clara. Her mother's voice cracked. You were too young to remember. Or too useful to lose, Rachel shot back. Grandma Martha took a deep breath. Eleanor has lived her entire life pretending the past didn't happen. And now she passed that sickness to Sophia, the belief that love is a game of winners and losers. Rachel didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Because now the real question wasn't just what Sophia had done. It was how many women in this family were raised to believe that hurting another woman was the only way to survive. After everything, Rachel still needed clarity, not revenge, not chaos, clarity. So she reached out to the only person she trusted with truth, Dr. Fell. Bennett, her mentor, and one of the top neuropsychiatrists in the state. They sat together in her quiet office, papers spread across the table, emails, text messages, audio transcripts. Dr. Bennett read in silence for a long time. Then she looked up. Her voice was calm but final. These aren't the actions of someone who's just jealous. These are patterns of someone with narcissistic personality disorder. Rachel's fingers tightened around her cup of tea. What do you mean, Doc? Bennett leaned forward. Sophia shows classic signs of manipulation, lack of empathy, pathological lying, and the need to destroy anyone who threatens her image. It's not about hating you. It's about needing to be the only one loved. Rachel's breath caught in her throat. So she can't love me? A pause. She can mimic affection, but true love, reciprocal, selfless, vulnerable, that's something narcissists don't just struggle with. They often weaponize it. Rachel sat in stunned silence. She thought uncovering the truth would feel like justice, but all it felt like was grief. The invitation read, formal Christmas dinner, 6 p.m. sharp, no surprises. Sophia should have known better. Rachel arrived early. She wore a deep emerald dress, modest but unmistakably elegant. She carried no gift, only a slim envelope and a flash drive. The dining hall glittered with lights, gold-rimmed china, laughter echoing through the tall ceilings. Sophia's in-laws, the Prestons, greeted everyone like royalty. James, her husband, looked distracted, nervous even. And then it was time. Before anyone could raise a toast, Rachel stood up from her seat, her voice calm but unwavering. Before we celebrate, I have something to say. Actually, I have something to show. A hush fell over the room. She plugged in the flash drive. The flat screen above the fireplace blinked on. A slideshow began. Emails from Sophia's secret Gmail account, bank statements, voicemails, audio recordings of Sophia whispering about sabotage. Gasps filled the room like thunder. Sophia shot up from her seat. "What the hell is this?" Rachel didn't flinch. "It's the truth. You stole from me. You destroyed my career, and you did it with Mom's help." James looked stunned. Rachel turned to him. "Ask her about the day your bank account dropped $22,000 and where it went." Sophia stammered. "It was an investment." Rachel played the final clip, Sophia's voice low, laughing. Rachel's too pathetic to fight back. That's the beauty of it. And in that moment, Christmas didn't feel like Christmas anymore. It felt like the first honest day this family had ever had. Rachel's hands didn't shake, but her heart did. As she stood at the head of the table beside her, like a silent pillar, was Grandma Victoria, her silver hair pinned neatly, her stare sharper than ever. Rachel opened her laptop. Slide 1, an email. Subject line, R.E. Rachel's malpractice rumor. From a Gmail address traced back to Sophia. Sent anonymously to Rachel's hospital board 2 days before her evaluation. Slide 2, a Venmo screenshot. Sophia transferring $1,200 to a local handyman with a note, "Emergency pipe job, same apartment." Slide 3, text messages to Nathan. Sophia, "She doesn't love you the way I do. Then, I can make you happier than she ever could." Gasps. Sophia tried to interject. "This is..." But Rachel raised her voice just slightly. "There's more." She clicked again. Slide 4 audio. Sophia's voice. "I told HR she yelled at a patient. They'll suspend her at least. That'll buy me time." Mouths dropped open. James, Sophia's husband, looked like he'd just seen a ghost. Slide 5. Bank withdrawals. Joined family account. Sophia's name. Tens of thousands gone. And then? Slide 6. The final voicemail. Sophia laughing. "Honestly, Rachel's whole identity is built on being second best. I'm just helping the world see it." Silence. Rachel didn't cry. She didn't flinch. Because beside her, Grandma Victoria placed a hand on her shoulder and whispered loud enough for everyone to hear, "You did what no one else had the courage to do." Just when the room thought it had heard it all, Margaret, quiet until now, stepped forward. She held her phone up. Her thumb hovered over the play button. "There's one more thing," she said calmly. "Sophia forgot I was in the hallway when she made this call." She pressed play. Sophia's voice crackled through the speakers crystal clear. She had it coming. Rachel always acted so perfect, like the world owed her something. Gasps. A fork clinked against a plate and fell. Sophia's face twisted. "That's fake! You can't! That's illegal!" But no one moved. Then James stood, the groom who once promised forever. He looked at Sophia like she was a stranger. Slowly, silently, he slid off his wedding ring, placed it on the table. "I married a lie," he whispered. Sophia's mouth opened, but no words came out. Margaret said nothing more. Rachel didn't gloat, and Grandma Victoria wiped a single tear. Then, silence, the kind that says everything's been broken, and nothing will ever be the same. 3 months later, the hospital board held a private meeting. One by one, the board members stood up, not just to apologize, but to offer something Rachel never expected. "Dr. Rachel Ellison, we'd like you to lead the Department of Neurological Research." She sat in stunned silence for a moment, then slowly nodded. It wasn't just a title, it was restoration. The hallway that once echoed with whispers about unprofessional behavior now echoed with, "That's Dr. Ellison. She's the one who cracked the pediatric seizure mapping code." Colleagues who once avoided her now sought her advice. Younger residents came to her office just to sit, learn, and listen. But it wasn't just her career that healed. It was her sense of belonging. On Saturdays, she volunteered at a mental health shelter downtown. On Sundays, she hosted brunch for the women in her department, a new family, made not of blood, but of choice. Rachel didn't forget what happened. She just no longer let it define her. Instead of asking, "Why did they do this to me?" she asked, "What can I now do for those still being silenced?" It came on a Thursday, an email. Subject, "For what it's worth." Sender, Sophia Harrison. Rachel stared at it for a long time, not because she feared what it might say, but because she didn't. She opened it. "Rachel, I've started therapy. Intensive. They say it's NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. I don't know what to do with that yet, but for what it's worth. I'm sorry. For all of it. You didn't deserve it." Sophia. There was no groveling, no long explanation, just an email from someone finally facing her own reflection. Rachel didn't reply. She didn't rage. She didn't cry. She closed the laptop, made herself tea, fed the cat, and exhaled not with pain, but with peace. Forgiveness wasn't always a grand speech. Sometimes it was just a moment where the past couldn't hurt you anymore. It was a warm Friday evening in late spring. String lights glowed above the backyard, casting soft halos over picnic tables, mismatched chairs, and half-filled wine glasses. Rachel stood by the grill, laughing. Next to her, Margaret passed plates, and Dr. Bennett helped slice a homemade strawberry pie. The old world filled with secrets and silent dinners was long gone. This was hers. No rigid seating charts, no hushed tension, just people who chose to be here. At the center of the table was a single bouquet of garden roses. Beside it, a small handwritten card, "To growth." Rachel raised her glass. Her voice didn't shake. It didn't rise. It simply was. "To the daughter," she said, "who learned that truth matters more than blood." Clinks. Smiles. And somewhere inside her, a door finally closed. Not with anger, not with grief, but with grace. And in its place, a garden grew. Not everyone you're born with is your family. Real family are the ones who see you in your deepest pain and still stay. It's not about blood. It's about truth, respect, and kindness. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's choosing not to let the past write your next chapter. And sometimes the bravest thing you'll ever do is walk away, rebuild, and choose yourself. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, if you've ever been hurt, silenced, or pushed aside just for being real, then this is the space for you. Hit subscribe and stay with us for the stories that needed to be told but never were. Together, we don't just listen, we understand, we heal. Through her eyes, because sometimes to see the truth, you have to see it through the eyes of the one who lived it.